to hang up the phone, but yes, that's better. I'll start in a minute.
Can you hear me, Rosa?
Yeah, it sounds way better. Great. Okay. All right, I'm adding you both to the stage. Nope, you're already on the stage. Adding. Okay, here we go. Let's do it.
They don't want you to know the truth.
Peace, everybody. I swear, sorry. Oh, let me get the closet. It's too much background noise. Omowale, is there like a truck or something outside? Maybe take the headphones off because
let me see.
Yeah, it's on your end. Okay, talk. Just say something right now.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Can't hear you. No.
You can't hear me?
You sound like you're underwater too.
Yeah. Okay.
Then that's the big.
Can we work like this?
Yeah, that's better. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I mean, I still hear it, but we're just gonna have to roll through it. Okay. Yeah, that's what everybody's saying. It sounds like you're underwater. Do you want to try to link in via your phone somewhere else, or the signal is weak?
Let's see.
Say something right now.
Testing.
Okay, that's perfect. Perfect. Peace, everybody. My name is Rosa Clemente, and you're joining us for an incredible lineup of the people that I admire, that are in my life, and comrades to the death. First hour, great. Kali Akuno set everything up. We are programming till 7 p.m. Incredible guests. I'm so grateful. I did this last minute because I physically can't be at a protest, but even if I could, I get people need to do that, but like as we keep saying, unless there's going to be millions of people on the street in a sustained general strike, most of us are finding that the best work we could do is in our own communities. I'm not saying you don't go to a protest. I'm saying that the times now require that you grassroots link up with people on your block, people who have a politic. As Kali's saying, and I think both my guests would agree, we are talking about self-defense. I mean, we haven't seen anything yet, but they are for sure setting up like the volley for these whatever these new, folks from January 6th, they've been released, they've been pardoned. They're quiet because they probably plotting something in some like land in Iowa, ready to go buck wild on us. I mean, we're seeing what this administration is doing. So what I wanted to do is bring you in with people who have a politic of self-determination. If you're organizing, for voting and affirmative action, go ahead, do you. We're not doing that. We cannot depend. And we have to be very clear. When people say the courts, what courts? We don't believe in the criminal justice system. And also they arrested a judge. Any dictatorship begins with erasing history, attacking teachers, professors, and artists, and then attacking the community writ large. These kidnappings of Muslim, Palestinian students, Middle Eastern students is them seeing how they're going to go after the activists. And Pam Bundy last week, the Attorney General, said that she is now going to ask journalists to turn over their notes. And yesterday, they took all the journalists, more like mainstream, right? CNN, ABC, they made them sit in the back now. And they got all these right-wingers in the front. And that's the only answer. That's the only questions they're taking, right? So when people say the courts, no. When people say, oh, but the law says this. Yeah, the law also said that enslavement was a human right violation. And like, when has the law ever worked in favor of our people? And I never want to hear the word democracy again. Read what democracy is supposed to look like, because they ain't here. And we have to be very, very clear. All right. So my guest, Omowale Adewale of Liberation Farm and Black Veg Fest. He founded the first one. I know thousands of people go every year. And my sister in struggle, and so blessed to have known her and met her in the movement, but met and got to know each other. And may she always rest in freedom, Sally O'Brien. Sally is literally the reason I'm here right now doing a show. I didn't even know why I would be a journalist. I really thought you had to go to like 10 years of school. And so I was like, no, come learn. And I did. And that's Sister Dequi Kioni-Sadiki, the former, well, I'm never going to say former partner, but the work she did to free Sekou Odinga and other prisoners. And we are so sorry that Sekou is not with you and not with us, but I definitely know that he's here in spirit. And I really encourage young people, if you don't know who our political prisoners are and why they still, like Mumia Abu Jamal and Amin Alamin and other PPs, please go to Jericho movement and sign up and support our political prisoners. We've had a lot of wins, but until they're all out, we're not finished with that race. So here we go. Want to ask you both, sis, we love you. We love you so much. You should have had more time with him, for sure. Oh, unmute yourself. Yeah. Maybe turn off the phone. Maybe turn the volume on the phone. What would be? You're on your. Let me see. Hold on, everybody. Give me a second. Yeah, I can't fix it. What is happening? We can't hear you. Omowale, while I figure this out. Well, first let me introduce you properly. Okay. A year before Liberation Farm was born, the global pandemic of 2020 made Nadia and Omowale more uneasy and unstable due to their living conditions and struggle to produce in Brooklyn. Determined to get over the housing hurdle and remain committed during Black Solidarity protests and still produce Black Veg Fest, they stayed fruitful. During the presidential election, a Black Veg Fest delegation countered for far-right protests in historic North Green, Tulsa, Oklahoma, with solidarity and vegan food. So, Omowale, I mean, I think we go back, like, I would have to say 25 years. The first time we met was when you were trying to create a union for hip-hop artists.
Yeah,
And, you know, you supported me 100 when me and Cynthia ran. We've been comrades. And I have been so joyful to see what you said one day you're going to do, and now it's here. You know, I tell everybody here in Albany, because not only do we have Liberation Farm in upstate New York, we then have Soulfire Farm, and we're next to the Canadian border. So I'm like, either I'm gonna go there when the revolution starts, or head across the border 3.5 hours from New York City. I'm so glad that you are here.
thank you so much. Appreciate you, my comrade, forever.
Just talk up a little. Just talk up a little bit more. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And Liberation Farm is essentially supposed to be a landing ground, right? For liberation, for folks who thirst for liberation. And the idea is what we understood, right now. We needed to consolidate our resources, cooperate with each other, and grow food and land, and that's how we're going to be able to sustain a settlement. And so nothing that we're doing, I want to say that, nothing that we're doing today in terms of Liberation Farm is new. If we go back to the 18th century, we'll recognize that we essentially were always creating housing, farmland, settlements, intentional communities to make sure that when we actually rose up and we had revolt, that we would be able to sustain ourselves and our community on land consistently. And that was our goal. And so Liberation Farm is essentially doing the same work, right? So we don't get captive. And when we do get captive, we do have a place for folks to actually survive when we come home. So Liberation Farm is about land sovereignty and food sovereignty. Having our food and making sure that it's Black farmers. That's why we needed to sustain Black farmers. All these years when we're talking about Black farmers, we needed to have land. This is the work that Fannie Lou Hamer was doing in 1969. But you find out about Fannie Lou Hamer in 1964 at the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. And that was her first time really coming into political life in 62. So it only took about 2 years for her to be a national focus and point person in terms of farmland. That's Fannie Lou Hamer doing that work, and wanted to be able to, consolidate our political power. Because why? But why are we talking about land? So initially, land was important so you could actually vote. So you could actually, if you needed to own land, if you could own land, then you could vote. If you could own land in this country, not only can you vote, you could run for office. You could essentially be a steward in the community of politics. And so that's what they were able to do in our community. The U.S. is able to do to stabilize us and remove our power and take us and push us off the land. So by the time we come back to the Great Migration, they put us on concrete. You can't grow anything there, y'all. We can't grow anything.
Omowale, let me just, because can you talk now?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Omowale, go ahead and
Yeah.
finish, and now we're all together.
So essentially, we needed to be able to have land so that we could grow food, but also this particular time when Underground Railroad was happening before 1865 had came around, and we got food from boundaries. Our people was making sure that we were and made sure that we had food. So the stuff that we're doing today is 200 years old, more than 200 years old. Excuse me. Make sure that we understand. I'm going to be talking about this May 27th as well, and this will be focused on Black farmland equity and food sovereignty at Brooklyn Public Library, and giving folks an analysis that starts from 1794 to 2025, and yet we're under attack right now. We're under attack, and we needed to have land. So we had 1% farmland equity. We only had 1% of land. Now, if I tell you that, and you already think you're free, right? And you have 1% of the farmland equity, and white people in this country have 98% of the farmland equity. Those are the acres, right? So now when they say things like China has way less than 1%. When they even talk about Bill Gates, he has way less than even 1%. But we're not talking about individuals, and we're not talking about any other country. We're saying this country, white supremacy has 98% of the farmland equity. So the attack right now and the food shortage is directed at us. It's directed also at the immigrants, but it's also really focused on destabilizing, our fight for liberation. So I mean, I think that was clear as soon as the army guy came into office, and he attacked the reproductive system of women. He attacked women's reproductive system. He's going to establish white supremacy and keep it going. Right? So now he's coming after immigrants of color, right? To get them out easily, right? Looking to, seek to move them. Now, what just happened? This is April 28th. They just came, and now they're going to focus on the Gestapo tactics. The Gestapo tactics is just now coming. So now, if you even have, you got to be careful if you just have a warrant or you have, a traffic, violation. We become very vulnerable, and that's why land is important. It's not just to grow food, people. It's also historically for us to be able to hide. This is what we were doing when we were escaping, and having the Underground Railroad and that particular system. So I wanted to kind of trunk it there, and hopefully folks have that little bit.
Yeah, Omowale, we can hear you, but it's kind of muffled. Maybe try to take your headphones off,
Okay.
and then, okay, I was about to bring in. Say anything, Omowale.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. That sound is absolutely. That sound, so I could turn off this thing so we don't get feedback. That sound is perfect right now. Unfortunately, Dequi got dropped or something happened. Okay, there she is.
But in that time, I can, could communicate on some other events in terms of what's being organized in direct relationship, to that. Liberation Farmer has a summer camp that's working in conjunction with Roots and Culture Farm. Right on Roots and Culture Farm, we have a summer camp, and this is a liberation, summer camp. I mean, we are focusing on self-defense, definitely. We're also focusing on farming and also like rest and healing. We do have to understand, rest and healing and organizing community. We are organizers. We do need to rest ourselves. We do need to heal from this trauma. We also need to communicate and bring our community into this understanding that we need to rest, we need to heal, we need to fight for our liberation, and we need to make sure that our food is sovereign. You know, we need to be on sovereign land. So the Liberation Farm Summer Camp is actually June 28th to July 26th, and we're focusing on 14 to 16, right? But say we focus on 14 to 16, other young people could also inquire about what else we're doing, because we also need volunteers. We are adults as well. We also need volunteers. We need folks on our farm days. This Saturday we have folks coming just 90 minutes away from New York City. And people could come up on the land and begin to start learning how to farm, and that will transition you in. And so let's not just talk about it, let's be about it. Get on this land.
Let's bring in Dequi. What I do want to say about that is important too, is that as all these cuts are happening, like USDA is being cut, right? And I want you to, you're going to speak to y'all winning that case and break it down. But I mean, there's, basically there's going to be no oversight. The bird flu is happening. We're going to have to learn how to feed ourselves, because all this other food that's either processed or poisoned, like more and more people are dying because they had a bag of spinach. Like the other day, apple juice, like, is all contaminated. So I think that's something we really have to talk about. Dequi says, thank you so much. So first, I want to ask you, you've been doing this for decades. What do you think about the moment that we are in, and what should we be doing, creating, or doing together in this moment that we're at?
Well, first, I want to say thank you for inviting me, Rosa, and peace to you, peace and greetings to you, Brother Omowale. Um, I don't think that I have all the answers, but what I do think is that some of what you both have said is like getting into the communities, talking to people, going back to knocking on doors and being in the streets and being in the barbershops and the beauty salons and wherever the people are, talking to them, organizing in those communities. And what Omowale said is so important, is like, instead of just talking about it, being about it, right? We've seen a consolidation over the last 50 odd years. Like, for the last 50 or so years, we have lived the legacy of the war on Black liberation and COINTELPRO, with the destruction of our families and communities through the so-called war on drugs and the so-called war on terror, and the collective mass imprisonment, first of our revolutionaries, and then of Black men, Black and brown men, and then women, and then children. So none of this stuff is new. It's just accelerated, and it's like it's both a learning opportunity. It's like people have forgotten that freedom is a constant struggle. There are so many people that believe that, they made it and they got all these positions, and, like what you said, Omowale, we think we're free. We first have to realize that we are the settler colonial project, just like Palestine. Right? This is the United States is called the United States, not by indigenous people, right? Who called it Turtle Island. And so we have to see the connections of what is taking place around the world is also happening here, right? That's saying, if they come for me in the morning, they're coming for you at night. So this is both a time of inspiration as well as reflection and education. We have to educate people that this is not new. We have to educate people that freedom is a constant struggle. We have to educate people about the country that they live in, because people don't understand that this is what our ancestors went through. All of these, like you said, the criminally unjust laws, this is what they did. This is what they lived through, and this is what they struggled through. But we have somehow forgotten that. I was having a conversation with Veronza the other day, and he told me about a politician Jasmine something, because I've been on a healing tour. Sekou passed in 2024, so I have not been in Brooklyn. I've been traveling. Staying with people who invite me to come to their home, to be anywhere but in the home that I shared with Sekou. And what I'm seeing from the places, especially internationally, what you said, Rosa, about the food, the quality of, we don't know that we eating Frankenstein food here on this land. We don't know that they are killing us slowly, right? When you talk about the level of high blood pressure, diabetes, and cancer, and asthma, and all that stuff, my grandmother always said, you are what you eat. And that is so true. So they are killing us and have been killing us for decades with this food. So getting back to my conversation with Veranza, people don't even understand what Omowale is talking about with Liberation Farm, because this politician said that we don't want to be no farmers. We tired of picking cotton. Like there's no understanding of where the food comes from. There's no understanding of free the land and independence, and you grow your food, you have self-determination, you are sustaining your family and your community. I just thought that was so outrageous. And here is a person who's clearly college educated, into the what you said, the illusion of democracy, and do not understand what land and farming is about. So we need a massive educational project that even helps people to understand not only the times that we're living in, but like the Clark said, studying where we were, where we are, and where we are going. And those bridges have been lost. So people just think that they have arrived where they are today, and there's absolutely no connection to the historical past and the historical legacy of struggle and self-determination that we have been engaged in.
And
but
with
it is inspiring that many young people are picking it up and asking questions and getting involved. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. And what you're saying too is the food chain supply. Like, there's this thing my mom taught me growing up. She and my dad would always be like, you go to the fruit section, veggies, and then the dairy. And they would be like, the rest of those aisles is full of junk food. Like my mom called it basura. Right. But I do think about it, when we talk about the 60s and 70s, what started happening in this country as well is this idea of quickness and fast food, right? The microwave is invented. And then the frozen dinner, which are full of sodium, is invented. Then Tupperware is invented. My mom would have like a can that she never threw out. Like, no, she's like, we don't need no plastic. We don't, what is this Ziploc bag? She was like, no, or the old school kind of medicine. Like if you have an ear infection, my dad would get an aloe vera plant and put the gel in my ear, and the amount of plastic, microplastic that is not just in the water in this world, but that human beings every day are ingesting these microplastic. And then what it has done to be like a fast food nation is it also, we have an entire generation of young people that think we've never done this before. We've had these practices for hundreds and thousands of years. What capitalism has done is make it be like, you don't want to have to cook for 2 hours. So just go get something frozen, throw it, and you're good. So Omowale, about that, and that people for, I would say in our generation, for like 20 maybe years or longer, we thought that fast food was safe. But now we know that's not true. And then, of course, the work that you all are doing. Can you break down what happened with the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture, and what happened with your farm and how you were able to save it from these folks that wanted to really take it away, but also kick you off the land, You know, I remember you telling me like the white supremacists would like they would ride up onto your fence or even on your property. They're in with guns and you have to continue to confront them. But if you could talk about the case, the USDA case that you just recently that you all won.
Yeah, definitely. So that came up. We still lost the land because white supremacy is relentless, but so are we, and so we stay engaged in the work, right? And we are able to already be on Roots and Culture land, Roots and Culture farm. So last year, and this is not that far away, May, we found out that we won. Now this began actually in October of 2003. November
Wait, this was happening for 22 years?
No, since 2023.
Oh, okay. I was
2023. Well, longer than that, but in terms of this particular situation, 2023 November they denied us or disapproved, and then January of 2024 they denied us again. Now it should be noted that we did a FOIA request, and then following up on the FOIA request, we said let's take them to court, and so we didn't have any time to really take them to court. But I said, we have to stand and deliver on this situation. Nadia really wanted to go after the FOIA request, and that became a real critical piece that we use. And so essentially, we'd be able to give that to people who think that Black farmers don't get resources because we don't know how to farm. Georgia, Mississippi, they are literally denied 3 times more than the Black Mississippians. The Black Georgians are denied 3 times more than white Mississippians, than white Georgians. And we know that Black folks was farming there in the Deep South. We know that we were farming, we were cultivating, we were called on to do that particular work. So we took them to court. Do you know the person, the loan officer at the Farm Service Agency, right? And so this is the particular agency that does the work of the USDA in rejecting Black farmers, and has been doing this, since they began. And so they've been around since 1863, USDA. So what they did was essentially say to us, or the loan officer, after they denied us, a week before the trial was going to begin, he retired. I want folks to understand that they retired. The person that they brought in, after, they actually follow me, on Facebook. So we beat him up in the court. We beat him up, during in the trial, and the judge basically took a long time to explain and break down. And our pro bono lawyer basically said, this is a little bit, this doesn't make any sense, that what they're going into in terms of when the judges write their justification. And so they write their justification a little skewed, because at the end of the day, I want to be clear, even though we won, this was part of USDA. Now they say that the NAD, right, the National Appeals Division that we applied to, they say that they're independent. You can't be independent in terms of the U.S. government, right? Right. Because we would have received money. We didn't receive any resources. But what was important was we were vindicated, because the judge had to say, well, it was erroneous. And the reason why the judge actually, and this is important, because the trial is public. Everybody can actually go on. The decision is public. They couldn't say, we were so good in there, we were kicking behind. They could not say that that they did something correct. They couldn't. We also had the new loan officer actually agree that he would have did something differently. He would have ruled in our favor. There was no reason. What they systematically do every single time is they make you believe that Black farmers are inept. They're unskilled.
Yeah.
They're poor with credit, but it's not the system that makes us poor with credit.
Right.
That's what they do every single time. So we were able to, for the U.S. government told us twice that we were denied, and then we were vindicated in going through the NAD, and essentially it said that the FSA made an erroneous decision, and so that was key for us. It said that they were wrong, because now when we have all of these white foundations, because we got to talk about the white foundations, we have to talk about the liberal folks who have all this money. They should be sending this to folks who are doing real liberation work, because I'm gonna throw it. Food shed cap is a big one, and I know some black farmers get money from them. I guarantee you, none of them are speaking like how we're speaking, right? And so, and I have to make this connection with Food Shed Capital, because they happen to be one of these so-called white liberal institutions. They promised us 700,000, but it was only to quiet us. It was only to dim our voice, because when we told them, and they already knew that we were going to essentially radicalize, the system. They said they want to radicalize this particular financial institution. And we have all the documents to be able to prove this. They even gave us they tried to give us to get us to sign an NDA.
What?
That's right. Right. A non-disclosure agreement.
Oh my
because
God.
They wanted to quiet us. Particular. We're under attack right now. When I say we're under attack, I understand that black people are collectively under attack, but I mean that we are surgically being under attack. I mean that folks are coming at us.
You know what it is? Yeah, Omowale and Dequi, I want to bring you onto this, because look, that's not very far from using food as a weapon, which is exactly, and sis just came back from Palestine, like straight. But right, I want to bring you into this. I wanted you to talk about. I'm sorry, that's my bad. Trying to unmute you. Just give me a second. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. So what I was saying, fam, is that we're talking about food as a weapon, right? What Omowale is doing, what Nadia doing on that is land as basis of self-determination and eating and food, right? That's what we should be doing. Then the opposite, which we've seen very clearly, when like it's out there, everybody's knowing there's a continuing genocide and that they are using food as a weapon. So sis, when Nancy told me you had just been to Palestine, I was like, oh wow, like, because we know so many folks for many reasons could not go, would not go. So you get to Palestine and what? You're off the plane, and then you get there. Just break it down for us.
Well, I want to say that I'm really glad that I went. It was a hard trip, and it was hard because it's just the naked aggression, repression, violence. I've long identified with, first of all, going to Palestine is something I've wanted to do for a long time. But when Sekou was in prison, I didn't want to go so far away from him. And then when he came home, he couldn't get his passport. So I didn't want to go without him. So this presented, an opportunity for me to go, because I wanted to meet, I wanted to see it. Like, I have all this theory, all this understanding. I've read all this stuff. I've heard all this talk, but I wanted to see it for myself, right? Because you can't unsee what you've seen or unfeel what you feel. And so from the time of going, it's more worrying. First, I was worried about whether or not we were going to be able to get in. And going there, I'm telling you, for a long time, I identified with Palestinian struggle as an indigenous person, right? My ancestry is Cherokee and Shinnecock. And I know that when the Europeans came here, they colonized it with the 13 places that we now call those states, and then the rest of it became the United States, right? But my ancestors called it Turtle Island. And so I always
Oh, I know what happened. Hold
I
on.
know.
Yo,
Yeah.
wait a second. Fam. The feds are obviously watching right the F now. Like, we're glad you're back, but as you know, me and Omowale were like, this is the feds. I don't care if anybody don't believe us, because the minute you said Palestine, your screen went black.
Mm.
It only happened for a couple seconds, but everybody just saw what the F happened. So if anybody thinks that this is about these attacks are about big attacks and attacking teachers, professors, and you're not that person, or you think, oh, I'm just an activist, like, why would that happen? Because they are never, ever the United States government not watching everything that's happening. And yes, fam, on YouTube, like, oh, damn. So continue, sis.
So I was saying that I have long identified with the Palestinian struggle as an indigenous woman. Going to Palestine, that is straight up Jane Crow apartheid, U.S. America style and South Africa style, right? The Israelis have yellow license plates. The Palestinians have green license plates. Green license plates are not allowed on certain highways, on certain roads. They are roadblocks. There are Israelis that walk around with M16s that they were given to civilians, not soldiers.
Right.
Soldiers are a whole nother thing, right? But civilians walking around with M16. We saw a young couple. He's pushing a baby stroller. His wife is walking next to him, and he's carrying a M16. Another person saw one in a restaurant, sitting in a restaurant with the M16. That is straight up to murder Palestinian people with absolute, blatant impunity. It is like we walked through a place where the Palestinians had to put up shelters, because not only are they throwing they already took their homes, right? But underneath there's like vendors, people, a marketplace. The settlers are throwing stuff down, and so they put up screens up there, top and different things, but it doesn't stop piss. And it doesn't stop lye. They're throwing acid and lye and urine down on people. So this is so much more. It's like you've taken people's homes, and I'm told that the people that come from Boston, the settlers that come from Boston, New York, and Chicago are the worst Zionists, the most racist, the most violent. Like, we went into a place, a bullet hole the size of a little bit bigger than a golf ball, was shot into a window because the snipers, they shoot randomly into people's homes, into buildings, killing people, killing children. I saw maimed children. What I identified when I went to Palestine is that it is what my grandmother and my grandmother's grandmother and all of those enslaved Africans lived through in this time. The enslavement, the settler colonialism, and followed by the Jim and Jane Crow apartheid. They don't want us to say that that's what it is, but that's what it is. It is straight up murder. And it's not a genocide that started on October 7th. This started in 1948. Right? This started with people's lands, their homes, and the outrageous nature that people from Chicago, this colonial project here called the United States, can feel like it is okay to leave New York, to leave Boston, and to leave Chicago, where they have to buy a house or they have to pay rent to live someplace, that they can go there and just push people out of their homes with impunity and with the law on their side and feel justified. It was so disturbing and so unsettling being there and seeing what I saw. But at the same time, there was joy, there was resistance. They were serving the people. The Palestinian people are still figuring out ways to serve the people and be there for the people, and the children laughter and the children playing, in spite of the gruesome nature of that continuing occupation and that continuing genocide. And I really need people to understand that this is not about October 7th. This is about 75 plus years of murder of Palestinian people for their land. They've chopped down the olive trees. They've bulldozed people's homes. We passed by roadways where people's furniture was stacked up outside, and they just built these. You could tell when it was Israeli settlement or Palestinian community, because the Israeli settlements, they have access to running water. Palestinians have to have water tanks on top of their roof. So the black one is for hot water, the white one is for cold water. So you being a Palestinian, you would on the highway, you passing by, and you see on one side of the road all of these barrels on top of the roofs, black and white, and then on the other side you don't see any, because the Israelis got access to water and plumbing, and the Palestinians do not.
And if people don't understand who settlers are, they're people. So it would be like if the Proud Boys ran up on a community and were like, you got 10 minutes to leave, we're destroying everything. Everybody should watch the documentary No Other Land. Okay, this is a documentary that won an Oscar. To this day, they can't get a United States-based distributor. People have been able to watch this documentary around the world, except here. But last week, and there's 2 weeks or maybe 10 days left, you can go right now, Google No Other Land, will take you to the site, and it's $13.99. Okay. When I watched it, I was enraged. I felt hopeless in a sense. It is it's a tough watch, but it focuses on what one village, about what our sister is saying. These are some demonic people, because they would destroy some of these houses. When you watch a documentary, folks went in, stayed on the land inside a cave, and they're living inside a cave. But you could see the fight back. And then every time they destroyed it, they're like, okay, destroy the school. Okay, they yanked up the water, the well. And in fact, there's a scene where whatever Israeli is in a driving a concrete mixer truck, and they pour the concrete on the well. I was like, unless I know, I've never been, but it's vengeful. It's so demonic. And then yet the Palestinian people are like, we ain't going nowhere. Before we wrap up, because we have to wrap up soon to get to the next hour, I want to play you a quick clip, everybody.
And I'm going to say it, farming is a white man's game. And the top 10 banks in the United States, they're guilty by not lending money to black farmers the way that they lend it to white farmers. That's true.
Between 1910 and 1997, black farmers lost about 90% of the land that they owned, whereas white farmers lost about 2%. And no, it wasn't because white farmers were 88% better at farming. Internal studies at the USDA found that the USDA authorities had routinely discriminated against African American farmers.
The government, who done treated us worse than the dirt on the ground we're sitting on, investigated this up in my local county office. It took 387 days to process a black farmer's loan application.
387 days.
387 days on average.
So you miss a whole year planting.
Bingo.
And how long does it take to process a white farmer?
30 days.
30?
Less than 30 days. That's where the problem is. And if I can't get it there, I can't get it anywhere.
That's it.
That's the United States Department of Agriculture. The last plantation. And they haven't changed, even after the national lawsuit.
In 1997, Timothy Pigford and 400 other African-American farmers sued the USDA for systemic discrimination against black farmers. The farmers won, but the payout took 11 years and required ongoing litigation.
It was merely an apology and an acknowledgement of guilt by the United States Department of Agriculture. And my grandfather, Thomas Boyd, used to say, every step you take, every step you make requires land ownership. So you can either be walking on your own or you can be walking on somebody else's, and they can have you trespassing and locked up. So the choice is yours. He said the land was the only way to be free. In the top 10 banks in the United States, they're guilty by not lending money to black farmers the way that they lend it to white farmers. They're guilty.
So, Omowale
Land is the basis
well, yeah,
of independence.
exactly. Like you broke it down. That is from a W. Kamau Bell show, United Shades of America. It was on for like 8 years, won Matt Emmys, but that was the last season. And Kamel was like, yeah, it was getting too real for these folks, right? Like that's exactly what Omowale has been talking about for years, but like breaking it down. So before we wrap up, and in the future, I want to bring you back. Omowale, where can folks reach you? And also, I was trying to find the copy of your book, brother.
Folks can
to
reach me at Liberation Farm at gmail.com.
Okay, he froze. Sis,
Okay.
wait. Okay. Then you froze. Go ahead, finish. We got to where you said Twitter, and after that, we didn't. It's not your fault.
It's Liberation Farm 9 at gmail.com, liberationfarm.org. Those are the best ways to find us.
Yeah, and sis, I mean, you came from Palestine. I know, right? You're still doing Where We Live on Thursdays.
No, I haven't done that. Sally and I haven't done it in a while, and now our dear Sally is gone. So I haven't been really on social media since Sekou passed, and then going to Palestine, I was really off it. So if anybody want to get in contact with me, I would say they can get in contact with you, and you can let me know, because I don't have any way really. I'm not checking social media and stuff like that, and I'm still on my healing traveling tour. I'm better than I was, but I still got a ways to go, because I have my days and I have my moments. So I haven't been doing much of us. So I really thank you for inviting me. And Omowale, thank you for your work, because people really need to understand, like, the past is the present, and land is everything. And it just shows, you make clear what has been happening. It's like Sekou used to told me that when he was inside, and he always identified as a prisoner of war, and the brothers inside would say, what war? He's like, the war that's been waging on black folks since we were kidnapped and brought here. People think of a war in other countries. They don't think about the war of poverty and miseducation and police terror and murder and the food and stealing people's land. Like, that's what they've been doing for hundreds and hundreds of years. So it comes as no surprise, but it comes as a surprise when people believe in the illusion of democracy and freedom, and that they have arrived. So we got educating to do of masses of people, and getting back out there in the streets to talk to people, because you can't be healthy if you're not eating healthy. And that's that's the impetus for the land right there, is so we can eat healthy. Because one thing we did was eat healthy in Palestine.
Right. And then the idea we're talking about the whole day, self-determination. Unfortunately, the nonprofit industrial complex has abandoned everybody. You got, like you would say, these huge foundations with $3 billion endowments, right, that can't all of a sudden find groups to give money to, because they weren't ever trying to give that to us. So now we know people that have lost their job, their nonprofit is over, they're about to be fired. We're talking thousands and thousands of people, and then putting us in a position that we think that all we can do is survive as opposed to thriving. But the only way we could do that is what both of you have articulated: the land and the food. And what does it look like for mutual aid? What does it look like when we're in cooperation with ourselves and other organizations? But lastly, what does it look like when you have a Black nationalist, for me, also a Puerto Rican nationalist perspective? And that's what we're also telling folks. Political education, do not assume people know what you know. And also don't feel bad if you don't know something. You know, you might not even find the accurate information on Google, but you could find it on shows like this that are independent. And really, I'm trying to keep this going. So luckily for me, I mean, I already have been working for 9 months. It's not a nonprofit situation. I'm a professor, and I thought I'd be back in the classroom. A lot of us are not. I got friends who their tenure was stripped away. Nobody's safe. That's the whole point. The point is, if you think this is not going to impact you, just think about what the economy and recession is going to do to us and our families. That's going to be the impact. And when it all comes together, that's when we're going to need millions and millions and millions of people on the street. It can't be these weird protests in Washington, D.C., yelling at a building. It's not going to come through you going to the Democratic Party. This is the work of liberation, of self-determination. And anytime our backs are against the wall is when we always innovate and create the solutions. I love you both. I thank you so much for being. Omowale, I know I got to get to the farm. I will. And sis, go on that journey. Thank you for all the work of decades that you did to get our PPs out. What a blessing it was when Sekou came out to see both of you together, and he should have been with us longer. And I am always going to blame the state, because no matter how our PP's coming out and they come out strong, they also spent 50 years locked up.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
And unfortunately, many came out and have died of diseases that went untreated. And we had 6 weeks with Mutulu Shakur. We had over 5-6 years with Baba Sekou Odinga. So thank you for sharing him with us. You know, I would have been like, we're going to Costa Rica, never coming back. But I say, and Jalil and them, you're like, take a break. They're like, take a break. I've been organizing in the walls. I'm coming back. They be like, self-care is the liberation movement. Self-care revolution, not going to a spa day.
Right.
Not
yeah, right.
First time for 2 hours, like, oh my God, I'm so tired. But it was so hot. It's like, where's my self-care? The movement is your self-care.
Oh yeah.
I love y'all.
I also want to say free Kamal-Sadiki, you know,
yes.
As well. You know, I don't want to forget that. So
yes.
That's right. Like she said, we still got people.
Yeah. And our latest PP out, right? Leonard Peltier.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one good thing that administration did, but I'm telling you, they didn't do it out of their hearts. They did it because the people
pressure.
And our political prisoner movement, this is also what people need to understand. You build. You might be doing something for 20 years. It might take 25 years, but all the political prisoner movements have been going on for 30 years. This is now the fruit of that labor.
Yes.
So just because one president signed and let one person out, I always say the movement got them out. And I think they would agree. So I love you both. I'm going to have you back.
Love you both. Thank y'all so much. Happy May Day. Keep it going.
Happy May Day. Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Love you back.
Okay, guys, 1:07. I'll be back at 1:10 p.m. I'll be right back.